welcome to another episode of FooBar. Let's keep on talking about how to build your Amplify application with CDK. This is the third part in this series. In the first video, I show you how to create an Amplify application using CDK automatically with environmental variables. In the second episode, we learn how to create Cognito user pools and identity pools with CDK and then integrate them into Amplify and use the libraries from Amplify, like the UI React components in this case, to use those Cognito resources. And also I show you how to do everything locally, so you don't need to be working and deploying in the cloud all the time. And in this third episode, and for now last, unless you let me know in the comments box below what else you would like me to show you, in this episode we are going to work with AppSync. We are going to create AppSync resources in CDK. But the interesting part here is that I will show you how to create those AppSync resources in the same easiness that we do it with Amplify. If you're familiar with Amplify, you know that you can create a reduced version of the GraphQL schema, and by using annotations like model and auth and other annotations, Amplify will produce a full-blown backend for you, that you don't need to do anything else but just define that small version of the schema. Even you don't need to add all the mutations and subscriptions and transformations or queries or anything to that schema. You just basically define the most important part, that is the model, and then Amplify will create everything for you. I love that feature from Amplify. I find it extremely useful and it makes development so fast. So when working with CDK, I wanted the same experience. So I went in the internet and I found a level 3 construct that does that for you. So let's go to the code and see it in action. And if I'm helping you, if you're watching this, if you're watching my demo, please like my video, leave a comment, tell me how much you like this. Thank you. Let's continue. So I will start this demo from the point I left it in the previous one, where you can find the code in the previous video. Go to that video that is called An Existing Amazon Cognito User Pool and blah, blah, blah. The link is in the description box of this video. And there you will find the code and all the instructions to get to the point that we are today. Basically, you just can clone that repo and get started with that. Also, another prerequisite for doing this video is that you have this application deployed. So you will need basically a repository in GitHub, in this case, where with a name and you need to have your username and you need to have it deployed and all working. So follow the steps in the previous video to get to this point. I'm sorry, but I don't want to repeat myself. So these are the prerequisites, basically the previous video. And from there, we are going to start. We have Cognito User Pool, we have Identity Pool, we have the Amplify application. So I will be using those resources for my AppSync endpoint and all these configurations. So I'll put my AppSync there in the middle between the Cognito resources and the Amplify application. And for that, I will go to the CDK construct catalog and I will search for AppSync. And there you will find many different third level constructs. I will be using the one called CDK AppSync Transformer. The link for it is in the description box, so you can go and check it out. And this was something that was done by someone from the community, and it's super cool. So you can read the blog post, you can read all the information for this constructor in the description box. I leave you the link, so go ahead and check it out. But I will be showing you how to use this. This is so powerful. So basically this thing allows you to define a subversion of your model and put the directives that Amplify use, and it will build everything for you. You will see how easy it is, crazy easy. So I was blown away when I found this thing. So the first thing we want to do is to import that level construct, and also we need to import AppSync module, level 2 constructs, and I will import both, and then we can start working on the code. So just import those two libraries, and then you're ready to get started. So after that, after those libraries are imported, then you can read the documentation for the AppSync transformer, or you can basically create a new AppSync transformer with a name in your CDK project. And I will just put another name to be a little bit more descriptive, or not, I don't know. And the name will be something like CDK Amplify project. I don't know, put the name you like. Then after that, we need to give the path for the schema, and this is the reduced version of the schema. So it will be in a folder called GraphQL, schema.graphql. Then we will need to give the authorization method for that, how we are going to log into that AppSync. In this case, we are going to be using the user pool, an identity pool that we created. So you will say that you want to use the authorization type user pool, and then you need to give the information from that user pool, the client ID, all that. And with that, that's all you need. Now, this plugin, this construct will take care of building everything, all the resolvers, all the schema, like a full-blown schema. It will build the dynamo table in this case, because there is one data source because of the model. It will build it all. So let's go and create the GraphQL folder and then put the schema, the reduced version of the schema in there. So I will create a new folder called GraphQL, and I will put the schema inside. And you can see in this particular case, I will be building a notes application. This, I think, example, you might have seen it from me like 20 times in 20 different formats, because I'm not a front-end developer, so I have the front-end for this thing, and I'm taking all the use I can have. So this is a very simple note application where I can add notes and delete notes and update notes. But you can see here that there is the model, and that's the node, and you can make this more complex. That's up to you. It's using the directive model. So this, as with Amplify, it will create the whole data source and the whole mutations, queries, and subscriptions for it. It has the directive auth, and in this case, it allows the owner, and this is the Cognito user, basically will be the owner of this, and it will be sync automatically with that. So basically, that Cognito user will be owning its nodes. It can remove, update, and delete its nodes, and no one else's nodes. And this is what that directive is doing. And this is so powerful. If you want to know more information on directives, check the documentation, and also check the Amplify documentation, because they behave very the same. So this is so powerful. And that's kind of it for the backend. Well, we need one more thing, that is to give the AppSync URL to the Amplify application. So we will pass that as an environmental variable, as we did with the user pool and identity pool. So I'll add a new environmental variable called AppSync API, and I will just pass that GraphQL API from there. And now we can deploy the backend, we can deploy it to the cloud, and that construct, the level 3 construct that we added from this community member, will do all the magic for us. So npm run build to compile everything, and then CDK deploy. I will fast forward until it's finished deploying, and then we can see how to the client. So when this finished deploying, we can check what happened. So let's go to our AWS account and go to AppSync and see if we have a new AppSync API. And we do have one. It's called CDK Amplify project, as we name it. And there you can see that there is a schema and the data sources, and that's the dynamo table that this transformer created for us. So that's amazing. So now we can work in our client. So I will be starting to work there. And now in the client, what we will do is basically use the API library from AppSync to call this GraphQL endpoint and get things out. So the first thing we want to do is to add to the Amplify YAML to the build script to fetch that new environmental variable called React AppSync that we have created before. So that's good. Then I'm going to add that environmental variable to our local configuration so we can test this locally, because if not, we will not be able to test it locally, and we all like this local testing feature. So just go to your AppSync application and check in your environmental variables the URL from AppSync. So you can get it from there. And make sure that all this information is populated. You can get it from there, from the environmental variables, if you have not yet configured it. Now I will copy the GraphQL schema, and not the small version, the one that we created in the backend, but the one that the transformer created for us, the completed version. And you can find that in the backend. If you go to AppSync, in there it will be the full-blown GraphQL schema that the transformer generated for us that will be used in AppSync. So we need to copy that one. So then we can use the code generation tools from Amplify, so we don't need to write those models. So let's copy this full-blown schema, and if we update the schema, we need to keep on copying this. This is something you can automate if you want, but in my case, I'm doing it manually. So for that, I will just find the folder in my client directory. I will create it inside the source, and I will create a GraphQL folder where I will be putting this schema. So now we can use the Amplify code generator tools to build the models for us. So we don't need to build those models, and every time the AppSync API changes, we just update that GraphQL schema, and then we run the code generation, and all these models will be updated, like Amplify does all the time when we have a new API change. So we go to that folder inside the GraphQL, and then we run Amplify add code gen, and this will ask us for some defaults. Make sure that you choose the right path and the right language, and it will generate the whole thing for us. So this is exactly what Amplify does when you are using its native way of creating the Amplify application. So now in our folder GraphQL, you can see you have descriptions, queries, mutations. All this code is generated for us. One thing to notice is that if you are using data store, I have not found a way to connect it with AppSync without using Amplify directly, so I will not recommend it, but you can use the API still with no problem, like I'm going to show you now. So we need to import a couple more libraries. For this to work, we are going to import the list nodes that is coming from that generated code by Amplify. And then also we are going to import the API and the GraphQL operation libraries from Amplify, and bring from the mutations the create node and delete node. These are generated by Amplify with that code generation tool that we just ran. And with that, then we need to make sure that our configuration file is up to date with the latest configuration, so it can support the AppSync configuration. Then I will add a couple more things to that configuration file. In this case, we need to add for AppSync 3 more entries. One that is called AWS Amplify GraphQL endpoint, and that's the endpoint that we pass as an environmental variable from the backend to the React application. Then the region, we already have the region. And then what is the authentication type? And in this case, we know it's cognito user pool, so we are putting it there. You can use an environmental variable if you want, no need. And with that, then you can use the API libraries as you were using if you have created the APIs with Amplify. So now I will copy paste basically my typical nodes application that I've been using million times with my small React components and calling the backend using the API, and we can go through it. So there is 2 components, the add node and list node, so they are visual components that don't do anything. And then I will be calling those APIs from the GraphQL in the component did mount method. Basically, when the application loads, I will be calling list me all the nodes. I want to get all the nodes for that particular user, and that I can call with the API GraphQL operation. Then we have the delete node method that will be deleting one node given an ID. And then I will add a node basically again using the create node GraphQL operation and give it the node type. And that's it. That's super simple. How to use this API, and everything is very automated. So we can put this in GitHub and see how this goes in action. So let's do that. And let's trigger one build. So we put a new commit in GitHub, and then we can go to our front-end environment and we see that this is provisioning. So let's come back after it finished running the new commit with the AppSync support. So now that it's ready, we can open that endpoint and we can see what we got. You might need to create a new account if you have not created. I already have an account, so I will go directly to my account and add nodes. And this is working with our CDK application is owning the backend. Amplify is just, we are just using the libraries, the client libraries, and that's great. If we go to AppSync, we can see the data source, we can see the schema, we can play with it. In the data source, we can see that there is the elements that we just added are there. So this is great. If we want to test it locally, we just run npm run start local, and that will start our project, and we will see the nodes that we just created in the backend. Well, because this is using the same backend between localhost and the cloud. So that's it for this series. If you want to see how to do more things using CDK and Amplify, let me know in the comment box below. I really enjoy this series. I will be building more applications using these concepts in the future, because I think this is a very powerful way of building real production-like applications. This is something that a lot of organizations would like to do, to have your backend hosted by any other way, like CloudFormation, Terraform, CDK, SAM, whatever you're using, and then using the power of Amplify to host your front end, use the libraries that Amplify provides to connect to those backend services and have everything automatically. One thing I will be doing later on, it will be kind of mixing this up with multiple environments and multiple stages like you will have in a production like environment. Let me know if you want to see that, so I make it faster. So I see you in the next episode of FooBar. Ciao, ciao!